I know what you're thinking. Another camera? Really? Is this just another marketing ploy to get us to spend more money? Well, Lumix are very good because whenever they bring out a new camera, you can guarantee that there's going to be something different about it. Some sort of useful addition, something that we actually need. But is there with this one? Those of you that have been excited about the release of the S5 IIX will be happy that it's here and you'll get to see some example footage. And for those wondering why you should even pay attention to this camera, I'll tell you how it's different from most available today and help you decide if this is right for you. Just want to say a massive thank you to Lumix UK who invited me down to the launch event in London the other day where I was able to pick up one of these cameras to test. That means I've only had it a few days so far and it's been raining most of the time, but I do have some footage to show you and I'll be using this as my main camera, so if you are subscribed to the channel you're going to see a lot more footage from this over the next year. In my opinion, this is the sexiest looking camera on the market right now because of its all black design. The white text on the buttons and dials is now grey, so you can still read it, but it blends in a little bit more. It just looks sleek. Sleek? Slick? Is it slick or sleek? Sleek. What is it? But it's not just about style. Lumix recognises that photographers and videographers like to stay discreet when you're filming out in public. And hopefully this will draw less attention from criminals and baddies who want to steal your expensive gear. Now speaking of baddies...
If Batman had a hybrid mirrorless camera, this would be the camera he chose.
If Batman had a camera, it'd be this one, I tell you. For me, if I was deciding between the S5 Mark II and the X, I'd go for the X purely based on the design alone because it just looks so cool. I'm not making excuses, right, but I need you to know this, so bear with me. I wasn't in the most ideal situation when filming the footage I'm about to show you. There was so many people around, so I didn't have the time to set the exposure correctly or get the best framing and camera movements. I also couldn't switch lenses because I had to be so quick. So these aren't the most cinematic shots. However, this is perfect because it shows you how good this camera is, even when you're working under pressure and just using the kit lens. When you have file types, dynamic range and image quality like this, you can really do a lot with the footage and make it look however you want. All I did was add my colour grading LUTs to the footage, make a few tweaks to the exposure, and that's it. And I think it looks great considering it was pretty much just point and shoot type moment. And if you want to know my simple colour grading workflow, you can check this video out here and you can get the LUTs from down in the description below. I've always loved the colours that you get from Lumix cameras and how easily you can colour grade the footage without losing quality. But if you really need to go heavy on the colour grading, you can. And that brings me to why this camera is so good for serious videographers. Because you can actually film in 12-bit RAW and Blackmagic RAW with the use of an external recorder. And on top of this, if you want a faster editing workflow, the S5 IIX allows you to record ProRes straight to an SSD without an external recorder, which is just crazy for a camera of this price and size. So now you can capture footage on the SSD and plug it into your computer and edit straight from the drive. Now if you're like me and your current workflow doesn't require the need for these features 100% of the time, you might think, well, I don't need that camera. But I still think it's worthwhile going for the X over the Mark II because it's only a little bit extra to pay for the design that I've talked about already. You may not use those features now, but you're gonna future-proof yourself. You never know if you might need those features in the future. Plus, it's just good to have. Like if you get asked to do a job and they say, can you film in RAW? You've got it. Just for a couple of £100 extra, you've got a real beast of a professional camera there. Not saying this isn't professional, because it is, but it is that extra step up just in case you need it. Make no mistake, Pardon me. If low light is your thing and you need those capabilities, make no mistake, just because this doesn't have the Sony logo plastered on the body doesn't mean it's not good in dark situations. With dual native ISO at 640 and 4000, the footage is crystal clear and well detailed, and the dynamic range is unreal. Seriously, it's so good. I actually like the fact that ISO 4000 isn't too high because it's not adding too much light. It's like a really good balance. It's a good in between, rather than some secondary ISOs of 12,800. That can often be a little bit too much, and then you find that you have to stop down either with an ND filter or change your aperture. So 4000 I think is a really good sweet spot. Obviously it also has the famous Lumix stabilization. All of these shots were taken handheld. I'm just walking, I'm not trying to be super smooth. So if I was, they'd have been even smoother. Plus, I didn't use the E-stabilization mode or boost stabilization, just the standard stabilization. So you can see how smooth the shots are. It's almost gimbal-like, and that's such an advantage, especially if you're not using a cage and heavier rigs, because smaller cameras are really difficult to keep stable. And it means that I can just go out with the camera and leave the gimbal at home, which is less gear to bring. So I'm saving room, I can put an extra lens in there or an extra camera body if I want in my bag. Both the S5 Mark II and the X also shoot in 6K modes, which looks fantastic. Now I did a video all about that, and you can see it here if you want to look at some examples. Now I'm no photographer, but I managed to get some snaps over the weekend. Now I don't really know what I'm doing, but I was trying to get these to look like film photography because I'm a big fan of that style. And I think it looks really good. I'm actually trying to start taking more photos going forward. So I know I can just go out with this camera alone, get some seriously professional video footage, and take some fantastic looking photos too. This camera really takes care of everything I need it to, whether you're a serious videographer or a serious photographer. With that added RAW capability, I think it could be the perfect hybrid camera for hybrid shooters, or as close as possible. If you want to know why I think these two cameras could put Lumix in good standing to take over the video market over the next 3 years, then check this video out here. And in the meantime, I'd love to know your thoughts on the S5 Mark IIX, so leave them in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.
Shabba-da-bing!